Hey everybody, it's Party Elite here with another episode of Total Breakdown. Today's battle pits the Gobble King leading the Empire as Captain Spiderpants against the Skaven forces of Ninja Hund. You might have seen this battle elsewhere, including on the Gobble King's YouTube channel and Ninja Hund's Twitch stream. I'll link to both of those channels in the description down below, as they put out some great Total War content and they're definitely worth checking out. We begin, of course, with talk of composition and deployment, and we have a bit of a Vermintide situation from the rats today, but let's start looking at the Empire. We've got Boris Todbringer in charge up in the air, alongside a Jade Wizard on horseback and an Amber Wizard up in the air as well. Up front, 4 units of Spearmen, and right behind them we've got a pair of Flagellants, unbreakable of course, and then right behind them we've got these 3 units of Free Company Militia. To the left you can see the Hammer of the Witches over here, a good call bringing in that magical ammunition against the Skaven who might bring some physically resistant units, and then to the right over here we have the Royal Altar of Griffites for that morale gameplay, bringing in that fear and terror, and also of course anti-large and armor piercing, while Vanguard deployed over here. You can see Zintler's Reichsguard off in the corner, hoping to push in and shut down any range units that the Skaven might bring in, and they might leave behind. Meanwhile, the Skaven themselves are being led by none other than Lord Skrolk himself. Up front, you can see we've got these 4 units of Stormvermin with halberds, and then on either flank we have some Skaven slaves and Skaven slave spears, and then to the left you can see some more Skaven slave spears, and to the right some more Skaven slaves and Skaven slave spears as well. To the back, meanwhile, we've got these 3 units of Clan Rat spears with shields, and in the middle we've got 2 units of Rat Ogres and 3 units of Warp Lightning Cannons. And the Warp Lightning Cannons, as you can see, are already firing away at the Hammer of the Witches, hoping to get some early damage done to this artillery piece. Of course, not a bad idea at all. Try to shut that down before it's able to do too much damage. Just focusing in, but unfortunately the Warp Lightning Cannon does not have the most accurate of shots, so a little bit of damage being done, but not as much as possible. And you can see the Hammer of the Witches actually responding as well, trying to fire away at the Warp Lightning Cannon over here, getting a little bit of hurt done here and there, trying to focus in on this unit right now and shut down as much as possible before it's able to do too much work. And you can see it is getting a fair bit of work done. That Hammer of the Witches is fairly low on health, relatively speaking, but take a look at that response here from the Hammer of the Witches, taking down that one Warp Lightning Cannon nice and early, just reducing the efficiency of this unit immediately. And meanwhile, you can see we actually have this Warp Lightning Cannon turning around and firing away at the Amber Wizard, and the Amber Wizard is doing a great job of dodging these shots. Take a look at that, just taking that nice left turn over there, managing to skip past that piece of lightning, and then another little right turn over there, skipping past that piece of lightning. So good job over there micromanaging the Amber Wizard, making sure that he stays alive and keeps dodging all of these shots for as long as possible. Meanwhile, you can see those Warp Lightning Cannons continue to fire away at the Hammer of the Witches, but in response we actually get Zintler's Reichsguard taking a bit of a risk over here, and I love this kind of play. I love these kinds of risks being taken. Take a look at this, seeing this gap, pushing right through it, not really caring about these spears to the right or to the left over here, and diving right into the Warp Lightning Cannon, taking a huge risk over here, but tossing the crew up in the air and back, doing a lot of damage, a tremendous amount of damage in that one charge. And the reason why they're putting themselves in such a precarious situation is not just because of the Clan Rat spears nearby, but also because of these Rat Ogres that are right next to them as well. The Rat Ogres are armor piercing, they're frenzy, they're immune to psychology, they cause fear, and they're pretty chunky as well. They're not that easy to dodge by. If they actually are able to pin the Zintler's Reichsguard down, then all of these Clan Rat spears are able to just swarm Zintler's Reichsguard. But you can see Zintler's Reichsguard here just looping around, having taken care of most of that Warp Lightning Cannon's health, bringing them down to about 50%, charging in towards this Warp Lightning Cannon and hoping to get a fair bit of damage there, as well as we get another piece just being destroyed there by the Hammer of the Witches. But immediate response here from the Rat Ogres, as well as Lord Skrolk diving in on Zintler's Reichsguard, trying to shut down that unit as quickly as possible. We've got the Clan Rat spears here as well diving in, and I might actually say that it would have been a good idea for the Warp Lightning Cannons to be firing away at some of these Flagellants, or perhaps even the Royal Altar of Griffites off in the distance over there as they come closer, just because it might have been a good idea to chip away at some of that unbreakable unit health and maybe even take care of some of that anti-large and fear and terror causing capabilities. But they decided to focus in on the Amber Wizard, who has taken a fair bit of damage, and also the Hammer of the Witches that have been brought down to about 50% health. The Zintler's Reichsguard, you can see, do get hit by the Rod of Corruption right now. Very low on health and very low on morale already. You can see we have Boris Todbringer looking for an opportunity to get involved and maybe help Zintler's Reichsguard survive, but you can see they are made to rout right away. The Amber Wizard comes in and pops Flock of Doom, trying to get a little bit of damage done over here, but Lord Skrolk is very quick to respond. He hits the Amber Wizard with a touch of the Liber Bubonicus, doing a lot of damage over there, and the Amber Wizard just tries to pull away into safety in case there's more magic where that came from. And you can see the Warp Lightning Cannon over here does get hit by Boris Todbringer. Not a bad call at all, but look at that immediate response over here from the Stormvermin with halberds, as well as the Rat Ogres just trying to swarm Boris Todbringer, as he's stayed on the ground for just a little bit too long. If he can get pinned down by the Rat Ogres and these Stormvermin with halberds are able to get in there with their armor-piercing and anti-large capabilities, then Empire leadership could be in a very precarious situation. Meanwhile, you can see as the Amber Wizard is actually routing away, he does get the assistance of Earthblood, just trying to keep him alive. The Jade Wizard is doing a little bit of work there to keep that Amber Wizard coming back for that magical damage output. And meanwhile, as the front lines engage, you can see to the left over here, the Flagellants are going to have no trouble dealing with the Skaven slaves. The Spearmen are going to have a bit of a standstill, I guess a stalemate against these Skaven slaves. Spears over here to the left as they are doubled up, and to the right over here as well, these Flagellants not going to have any trouble against these Skaven slaves. And you can see we actually have the Royal Altar of Gryphites on the right over here looking for an entry point. They decide to skirt by that right flank and try to push in to assist Boris Todbringer, who does find himself in a very precarious situation. He pops Foe Seeker to try and get out of this dangerous spot over here, but you can see the Rat Ogres are holding him in place. He is fully surrounded by all of these halberds, so Boris Todbringer finds himself in a very precarious situation. You can see we actually have the Royal Altar of Gryphites trying to push in to respond and provide assistance, but instant response here from the Stormvermin with halberds. They turn around, and even though they're not braced, they are a threatening unit for the Royal Altar of Gryphites, so you get a nice little charge over here, pushing right into the Stormvermin with halberds, maybe causing a bit of a distraction, maybe causing some disruption, but then immediately the order comes for the Royal Altar of Gryphites to pull back into safety. That's not a bad call at all. You don't want to lose that unit right here. And at the same time, back here, you can see the Free Company Militia actually trying to take advantage of this gap that's been left over here. If they can push through and get behind enemy lines, they can fire freely into all of these units and cause a lot of damage. But you can see the Clan Rat Spears over here plugging that gap and actually chasing after the Free Company Militia over here, trying to close these guys down and make sure they're not able to get any shots in, while the Hammer of the Witches continues to fire away at the central clump. And take a look at Boris Todbringer. He's very low on health and very low on morale, about 50% on both. In comes the Amber Wizard with a nice rear charge over here, again hoping to free Boris Todbringer up, and in comes some Earthblood assistance as well, trying to keep both of these guys alive over here, Boris Todbringer as well as the Amber Wizard, trying to keep them alive and pull them back into safety as the Royal Altar of Gryphites continue to sort of pull away and get these Stormvermin with halberds to chase them off in the distance, while over here you can see we do have these Clan Rat Spears holding the Free Company Militia in place, while this unit of Free Company Militia is able to push through and open some shots into the Stormvermin with halberds over here, I think, but you can see we're going to get a pretty quick response from these Clan Rat Spears with shields. They turn around and try to close the gap to the Free Company Militia, while over here we actually get some Clan Rats brought in to, I think, try and pin the Royal Altar of Gryphites in place, but unfortunately, as fear and terror kicks in for these Rat Ogres, Boris Todbringer over here is able to pull back into safety and take to the air. The Amber Wizard as well, trying to do the same, but the Warp Lightning Cannon continues to fire away and gets a fair bit of damage done to the Amber Wizard. He's very low on health, not having a good time whatsoever, and he is surrounded by Lord Skrulk as well as the Stormvermin with halberds. Meanwhile, back here you can see the Free Company Militia actually pull back and start firing away at these Clan Rat Spears with shields, hoping to take care of that unit that is otherwise preventing the Free Company Militia from firing away. They actually dedicate themselves to this unit of Free Company Militia, and this unit needs to just turn around and open shots into their backs now, while you can see on the left flank over here, the Spearmen are actually able to punch right through the Flagellants as well, kind of being held in place by these Clan Rat Spears with shields, and meanwhile the Royal Altar of Gryphites making very quick work of the Clan Rats back over here. Meanwhile, all the way off in the distance over here, you can actually see the Hammer of the Witches still at 50% health, still firing away. Now their kill count has gone up to 14. So despite working on the Hammer of the Witches early on with those Warp Lightning Cannons, the Warp Lightning Cannons didn't actually finish the job, and now the two Hammer of the Witches that are still left on the field firing away are able to do some work. So that's what makes me question the focusing on the Hammer of the Witches early on, rather than firing away at the Royal Altar of Gryphites or firing away at some of the Flagellants that are unbreakable as they close these gaps. Meanwhile, over here you can see we also have the Free Company Militia actually trying to turn around and fire away at the Clan Rat Spears with shields over here, and they are very quick to give up on the fight under that kind of fire. They're not having a good time at all. Their health is dropping, their morale is dropping as well. As you can see, they're shaken right now, very quick to waver, and they might just give up on the fight right here, right now, while over here you can see the Royal Altar of Gryphites get a little bit of assistance from Earthblood, while Boris Todbringer is hit by the Rod of Corruption as well as the Libra Bubonicus. He is not having a good time at all as the Royal Altar of Gryphites come here to try and distract these Stormvermin with halberds once more. In comes some more Clan Rats as well, trying to keep Boris Todbringer stuck in place. That Libra Bubonicus is doing a lot of damage. The Rat Ogres as well coming in to try and hold him down, pin him in place, but Boris Todbringer is able to pull back into safety and take to the air as all of these Free Company Militia continue to fire away as well, hoping to scare some of these units off. You can see the Clan Rats turn around and give up on the chase as Boris is able to take to the air and is now going to try and replenish his hit points before he decides to dive into a risky situation again. Meanwhile, back here you can see the Free Company Militia are all free to fire away. They're focusing down on various units, trying to take care of the Stormvermin with halberds, trying to take care of these Rat Ogres as well. A lot of scary units on the field over here. You can see Boris is actually taking some risks, turning around and diving into Lord Skrulk, who manages to get a very beautiful cast of Pestilent Breath over here on the Free Company Militia, just trying to take care of this ranged unit that's causing so much trouble, so much harassment. 45 kills on that unit already, trying to take care of those guys. Meanwhile, back here you can see we've actually got these Flagellants chasing after the Clan Rat Spears. Maybe a little wasted there. They should have been turned around and pulled back into the central engagement. You can see the Rat Ogre is completely giving up on the fight. All this Free Company Militia fire here, doing a lot of damage to actually get those guys to shatter completely. Over here as well, you can see Lord Skrulk being tossed around by Boris Todbringer, but you can see despite Foe Seeker, Deadly Onslaught, and Earthblood, he is still no match for a bunch of Stormvermin with halberds coming in. So the Free Company Militia push in to intercept as Boris is able to pull back into safety and once more take to the air. He is at about 50% health, 50% replenishment cap as well, so a very precarious situation for Boris Todbringer over here. And you can see we actually have Skrulk trying to bring in some clan rats here and there. A bit of a failed cast over there, it seems like, but another cast over here bringing in some clan rats. I think hoping to keep the Royal Altar of Gryphites in check as they are moving around rather freely, able to get rear charged wherever they choose. And you can see Boris Todbringer again looking for an opportunity to get involved somewhere, while over here the Royal Altar of Gryphites get a nice rear charge into the Stormvermin with halberds, as well as these Skaven slaves, hoping to scare these guys off, because right now they're keeping the Free Company Militia from firing away, and the Free Company Militia's morale damage output from getting shots in, and of course their physical damage output as well, is extremely important. But you can see we've got the Stormvermin with halberds as well as these Skaven slaves and Skaven slave spears kind of boxed in over here. Not only do we get that rear charge from the Royal Altar of Gryphites, but we also have the Free Company Militia able to fire away into their backs, causing a fair bit of damage and actually getting some routes over here. Immediately, the Royal Altar of Gryphites pull back into safety. They don't want to stay engaged against these halberds for too long. We have Zintler's Reichsguard pushing in. They are still alive somehow, pushing in for a nice rear charge, trying to get these guys to all give up on the fight. And of course, the Royal Altar of Gryphites right there, Terror is very quick to kick in. Over here, you can see the Spearmen trying to take care of the Clan Rats, as well as some of these Stormvermin with halberds, just trying to pin them in place, I think, allowing Boris some more mobility, some more freedom when he decides to land and get involved somewhere. But you can see we've got the Free Company Militia turning around and trying to fire into this massive clump over here, this massive clump of anti-large units that are probably very terrifying for Boris right now as he's flying over them. You can see the Hammer of the Witches is also firing into this clump. We've got this Free Company Militia unit as well firing in, trying to get some damage done and scare some of these guys off, while Boris Todbringer looking for an opportunity to get involved somewhere where he can cause some damage with a nice rear charge, bring in some of that fear and terror as well. Perhaps decides to actually take the risk and dives right into this clump over here, maybe trying to hit Lord Skrulk over there, but you can see we've got these halberds willing to turn around and poke and prod away at Boris Todbringer, so he immediately pulls back into safety and pulls to the air. In comes the Rod of Corruption. Great cast of Rod of Corruption there, reducing not only Boris Todbringer's health, but also health on the Zintler's Reichsguard and the Royal Altar of Gryphites, as well as Boris Todbringer pulls back and tries to take to the air, but again he gets bogged down by these Warp Lighting Cannon crew members who are now shattering, of course. But you see he's able to find that gap and ultimately take to the air if he wants to. Decides to dive into Lord Skrulk as he has left himself exposed over here. Lord Skrulk is going to take a little bit of damage over here. We do have these Stormvermin with halberds able to turn around and dive right into Boris though, and you can see the Warp Lighting Cannon back there as well firing away as Zintler's Reichsguard gets in a nice charge to shut them down once and for all. Boris Todbringer turns around and pulls to the air as the Flagellants over here dive in to try and pin these Stormvermin with halberds in place, allowing Boris to take to the air. Meanwhile, back here we've got the Royal Altar of Gryphites looking for an opportunity to dive into some more units, maybe take care of these Clan Rat Spears with shields over here with a nice charge, fear and terror, of course. And over here you can see we've got these Clan Rats closing the gap to the Free Company Militia, and we've got these Stormvermin with halberds closing the gap to this Free Company Militia unit as well. These guys are going to have a hard time against the Stormvermin with halberds, but you can see the Hammer of the Witches continues to fire away, now taking out some of these Stormvermin with halberds. And take a look at that, they're at 56 kills. So all that work that was done by the Warp Lighting Cannons in the opening is a complete waste, as they didn't actually take care of the Hammer of the Witches, and the Hammer of the Witches continues to cause a fair bit of damage right now. You can see over here we got the Royal Altar of Gryphites getting a nice rear charge into the Stormvermin with halberds, and again the fear and terror over here is doing a lot of work, getting those otherwise threatening Stormvermin with halberd unit to give up on the fight very quickly. Meanwhile, you can see over here we actually have Boris Todbringer again looking for an opportunity to get involved somewhere, while the Free Company Militia unit over here pulling back into safety from these Skaven Slave Spears, ultimately deciding that they can actually get involved in melee if Boris Todbringer is able to dive in over here, or perhaps these Royal Altar of Gryphites come in with a nice rear charge bringing in fear and terror. Then these guys are done for. As you can see, we also have Boris coming in for, good measure. We still have Zintler's Reichsguard active as well, able to close gaps very quickly. Of course, cavalry unit as they are, they're able to dive into various units. Boris Todbringer, I think, scoping out these Stormvermin with halberds over here that are very low on health, very low on morale. A nice charge over here will get them to give up on the fight. Of course, in comes Terror instantaneously. We also have the Free Company Militia firing away, trying to get rid of this unit once and for all. But you can see back over here, we actually have a bit of a regroup happening. We've got these 2 units of Stormvermin with halberds. We also have these Skaven Slave Spears over here. Lord Skrulk as well at a decent amount of health. He's at about 50%. He's able to close the gap alongside all of these anti-large units, but you can see the Hammer of the Witches continues to fire away at this beautiful clump that's being presented, and so just like that, its kill count is up to 71 kills. Bad call there, letting the Hammer of the Witches stay alive despite focusing in on it for so long early on in the battle, and you can see as a result of that, a Pyrrhic victory for the Empire. Now, the Skaven brought a massive Vermintide-style army to bear today, and the Empire worked hard and fast to shut down as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Zentler's Reichsguard moved swiftly to, at least temporarily, remove all 3 warp lightning cannons from the equation. All the work those 3 units had done was more or less for nothing by the time the front lines engaged, as the Hammer of the Witches was able to survive and get over 70 kills, and the Amber Wizard as well was able to survive and get a little bit of magical damage in as well. Now, had those 3 warp lightning cannon units softened the Flagellants or the Royal Ultra Gryphites up instead, things could have gone very differently. In many spots, the Skaven won the frontline engagements rather handily, and they did well to keep the Empire cavalry on their toes as well. At the end of the day, however, the Skaven threat was removed, and as far as the Empire citizens are concerned, the Beastmen were thwarted once again. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I do think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to highlight such amazing battles from the community. I'd also like to thank all of my patrons for supporting the channel on a month-to-month basis, making a huge difference, keeping us alive and running smoothly. Till next time, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the battlefield.